My name is Micael Tanzborn. I'm living and operating here in Tanzania. I was born and raised here in Tanzania. That's why my name is Tanzborn. I feel that, I belong here in this part of the world. And totally, I've been living now here, including my first 10 years, 17 years in Tanzania. And I just love the culture and the people and the environment here. That's me.
Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi A14, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started into this episode. That's interesting. So how is Tanzania today? Today is the 2nd of April, 2022. So tell us a little bit, what is happening in Tanzania today?
I believe that things are moving on pretty well. I mean, they have been hit also by the corona and the COVID, the pandemic, and especially when it comes to the tourism, because Tanzania has a huge tourist sector, and that has been hit pretty bad, but they are recovering slowly and they are getting to the right place. I also see that the current president is doing very much in order to support and to encourage companies to move forward and investors to come into the country. So I believe that Tanzania is on track and getting along pretty well.
All right, Michael, we are going to be talking about something important today, particularly relating to workplaces, which is the toxic nature of some workplaces that we have, unfortunately. So now somebody don't even understand what is meant by toxic workplace or work environment. Would you want to spend some time explaining to us what it means?
Yes, let me do my best to explain it. A toxic working environment is mainly caused by management and leadership styles. But what a toxic working environment is that everyone is they are not feeling well in the environment of work. And that means that they are constantly tired, they are constantly overworked, they have a fear to speak out, they perform less. And it is a vibe in the company and in the atmosphere that makes that people, even though they say that they are okay, from my point of view, I can see that they are not. So a toxic working environment is very, very devastating for the total of the company performance and the result, as it is then controlled by management that is leading by fear.
Now, at least for the people that see you, maybe they don't know that you'll be working in this area. For how long you'll be working in the area of leadership and management, if you want to put it like that? Can you give us a little background of you and what even interests you in leadership in the area of work and management?
Yeah, I mean, I've reached an age now of around 60. So much of my working experience has been lately has been on management. I have run my own company where I had people that I had to lead and manage, or not manage, actually. You manage the company and you lead the people. That is my word of saying. So that I did for 10 years. I've also been working with Procter & Gamble in Denmark, also leading people and managing the work. After that, then I decided that I wanted to come to Tanzania. And here it has been 7 years of constant managing positions, leading and empowering, and finding place where people can grow and take responsibility under freedom.
All right, with that clarified now, it means that you have a lot of experience with in workplaces, in management, and all the things around it. Can you share with me what are the signs that one should look out for in terms of toxic environment?
But it comes to many sick days. People become sick for no reason and has to stay home. People are constantly tired. They perform less. They work long hours and they get not much done. So the signs where I can see is if you find people getting that the sick days continue to grow, that's a sign that something is not right in the company. When you see that the performance is not that good and it's going down, that is also another sign. If you see that people are driven more by how do I say this? They are more focusing on getting reports into the management, and you see that that's the main drive. I think that is also something that you need to look out for. But being tired, being less motivated, and being sick often, that is for me some red flags when it comes to running a company.
So with the different company that you have worked with in the past and also maybe also currently, is it this tendency of people or the workplace be toxic? Is it something that happen often, or what is the frequency? Look at a kind of give me some statistics of the workplaces that you know of.
I would like to say that the toxic working environment comes from the leadership and from the management, from the senior management, then deploying everything down. And I can see a huge difference from different, if I compare Sweden and I compare Denmark or the Western world with Africa. And now my experience is here in Tanzania, and I can see that a lot of leadership is management by fear. It's a bit autocratic, it's persuasive, and it has it's kind of authoritative. So it's driven by being an authority, and you are not allowed to question, and you do as the manager tells you, period. When and if we look in that management style or leadership style, it's called by there is a professor who was, his name was Douglas McGregor. He's passed away, but he had made a survey and study where he called them the X and the Y management styles. Actually, only two. But if you go into the X styles, there are these three main components: that it's autocratic, it's authority driven, and it's made by persuasion, where the management has all the power and all the saying. And the Y factor and the Y management style is driven by a democratic, more building on trust and coaching. And when you then delegate the responsibility to the people that you work with, then you can see that the company grows and the person grows, and company are made out of people. So you need to see that the people grow so the company can grow. So for me, that is at least in my head, I'm talking about my own personal opinion here. And I've seen that very much the X management styles are done. When I look here, I don't like to say it's in Tanzania or Kenya or Africa, but I've seen it where I am right now, where I have done all my best to implement the Y management side, meaning democratic and trusting and delegating and coaching and mentoring, instead of working with a X management style. Lately, I've been working for a local company, and that's where I saw and that's where I experienced this X factor. And yeah, it's not good.
Okay. Actually, I wanted to ask you that to see what is the result between the S management style and the Y management style. Which one produce result, or which one would you recommend that company adopt often or should adopt more? Because at the end of the day, the employer of the labor want to see more productivity at the end of the day, because you are investing in tools, you are investing also, you are paying salary, you need to make profit. If you don't manage your employee correctly, you are not going to get good result from it. So in that sense, it is good that you look for the one that can be resultful, but also not abusing the human being that you are using to work. So you almost already respond to the question, but to just get it directly, which of the style of the management would you recommend for companies?
I would recommend the Y style every day of the week. I mean, even if you're a manager and you have the final authority and you have the final decision making and you have the final saying, you need to build trust with your people, with your staff, with your employees. If you don't share trust and you keep controlling and micromanage, people will stay in the same, they will not grow. Because if you give them responsibility and if you give them the opportunity to come up with ideas by themselves, then you can always guide them into the right direction of saying, you know what if you did it this way, instead of saying, no, do it this way. And then you guide them and mentor them and coach them through your questions. So they come up with the same answer that you have yourself.
Mm-hmm. That
If
is
you
good.
see it going in the wrong direction, you have to, pull them back by question and to get them to think and to get them to be creative and understand that, okay, if I do it this way, it might go better. Yeah, that's the point, actually. And then you go back and forth. So, and I see that it's working for me.
But adopting the East management style and the Y management style, is it that one is too difficult to adopt? That is why people opt in for the second one, or I mean, is it more challenging to adopt the collaborative style where you are collaborating with the people instead of looking at them as if they are just your soldier? You just command them like the military, as it were. Though, is
Yeah.
it more difficult to be collaborative with your employee?
Of course. That's the challenging part. But if you are a good manager and a great leader, you need to pull instead of push. Okay, sometimes you need to direct them with a straight answer and a authority, but you have to show humanity, and you need to build that trust, build that freedom, and build that, how do I say, the will and the motivation that comes from themselves within in order to perform. And if you give them that, I strongly believe that that will give a better results in the end of the year than if you are an autocratic, commanding, guiding with authority and persuasive, building everything by micromanagement and reports mainly. So yeah, it's challenging. It requires a lot from the leader to have that power, to have that strength, to share the trust. And if that doesn't work, then you have to go back, and then you have to be a little bit autocratic and demanding, because trust is, I mean, it's earned. It's like respect. You can't just get respect. You earn respect. You earn trust. And if you get that right, then I think you are going to do less as a manager and a leader and get the people to perform under you in a much far better way. But again, that is my personal opinion. But I've seen it so many times.
Opinion, because it's your expertise, it's your area. No? That is why I wouldn't call my mother to give me an advice on this now, because she have no idea on this particular field. All right, now before you were making mention of management by fear and things like that. So I don't know if you want to spend some few seconds on that. What do you actually mean by management by fear? Maybe you are referring to where you are just now in Tanzania. And what kind of fear is that? Are they what are they afraid of? And where is that fear coming from in terms of managing a people and worker in a company?
For instance, if I manage by fear, I sit down and I say, this is the way we're going to do. And no one dares to question it. Even if they know it's wrong, they don't question. And I think they need, in order to get the company again to grow, you need to let them question some of your sayings. But if you always say, this is the right thing, do this, and then follow up with a report at the specific time so I can see that everything is done. That's where I think things go wrong, terribly wrong, because they might have an idea. that might be very, very good. And if you don't open up that door for people to question you, then you can make terrible mistakes, big, huge mistakes. And that is, yeah, that is not good.
Yeah, it's not good. That is costly because mistakes sometimes can be really very costly. All right,
Yeah, it can be very costly. And also one effect of a toxic working environment and in autocratic leadership style is that you have a high turnover of people. And again, that is not good either. You have to have a high turnover of people. You have every new employee that you take in place to replace someone who has resigned for one or other reason takes time, takes money in order to get everything right in the first place. So instead of changing and accommodate with a better working environment and build up that person, you have to replace by, there is huge costs when it comes to employ a person. You have the recruiting cost, you have the time spent, you have the interviews, you have the introduction, you have the induction, you have the time where they are up to speed. How much are you spending on that, and how much are you possibly losing by letting that person go that you can see can contribute in a good way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question, and that question, of course, is for the managers, people who are managing other people. All right, Michael,
Yeah.
what is the effect of toxic work environment? What effect does it have either on the people or even the company itself?
I think that the biggest effects of a toxic working environment is that you have less retention of people. You have a higher turnover of people, and you need to replace and replace and replace. And yeah, that is the biggest effect. And you squeeze people, and that is not good. So, and people, you make them small instead of making them big. You kind of diminish them instead of making them grow. And if you give them the chance, they might create wonders.
All right. So you let us know before some of the sign one should look out for to understand what is happening in terms of a toxic environment. Now, if you are the manager, you need to know what to look out for, of course. So that is why it was important to identify those signs. But now, say a manager understand, or somebody who have a company with people working with him or her, understand that at a certain point, the workplace is toxic. What is he or she supposed to do? I mean, how do you handle a toxic environment, work environment?
It's easy to say, but it's hard to implement. But if you are in a toxic environment, you have two choices. Either you stay and you face it, or you just leave and spare your sanity. Because toxic in environment can be insanely damaging for your mental health. So for me, I'm going to be very black and white here. You have two choices. Either you stay and you face it and you take the consequences of that, or you leave.
All right. Now, you leave, there is nothing to say more about that. You leave. What of when you stay? Now, how do you manage it? Because now you face it. How do you face it? How do you deal with it? Because now this is a problem at your hand as a manager.
Yeah, it is. It is a problem, and that's why I'm concerned about this matter, and that's why I'm so concerned about leadership styles, because that is the one who is creating either a good working environment or a toxic one. So for me, if you are working in that, I totally have the belief that to release that stress that the toxic environment creates, you need to have something that can ease it. Either you go running, or you go to the gym, or you read, or you write, or you do something that can get you back to the normality, so to speak, the normality of what is good, if you decide to stay. And as a manager, there is a very fine line how to address it, because it depends on where in the hierarchy you are. If you're in the beginning of it, it can be hard to address it to your senior manager and then to the senior management. And I think that is, especially when I think it's easier in again, I don't want to be, to say that it's better in the Western world, but I think it's easier to address that in the Western world than it is here, because if you address it in, for instance, Tanzania or East Africa or Africa in general, it is taken like a critique instead of a positive response where you can see, okay, I need to change something about my management style, my leadership skills. So when you are criticized as a manager and a leader, the easiest way out there, instead of embracing that critique or the feedback that you get, is to fire that person for insubordination or some other matters. So I'm quite concerned of the mental health that the toxic environment can create. And I think there is a hidden number of mental health cases, especially in Africa, because it's not allowed to talk about it as much as it is in the Western world. And that is a huge concern for me, to be honest. I'm deeply concerned about this, and that's why I actually want to talk about it. And yeah, it touched me very bad in many ways when I see that people are not feeling good, and it comes from the working place. And I wish I could have this magic thing
The
and
magic word.
make everything,
Just speak
go.
it on it, then everybody's happy.
Yeah. But
Well, it's not always happy.
no, and it's a long way to walk, but it's also maybe a topic that is a bit taboo to talk about. And maybe I'm putting my neck out here, but then again, I can't stay quiet when I can see, and I think it's a quite important matter, issue, topic, call it whatever you want, and it has to be rectified for the betterment of people and companies. And again, I go back to the statement I made in the beginning, that if you want companies to grow, you have to get people to grow, because the company consists of people, period. It's simple as that. And if you don't let them grow, and you micromanagement and you control them more or less to death, you will never have that success of growth in the company.
All right. Now, share with me a kind of a case study of a company that you have worked with that had maybe this problem of toxic environment, and maybe what you have done with them and what has been the result.
I worked with a company where the former management worked very much with fear. And here you're called yes boss, no boss, yes sir, no sir. I'm a bit hesitant to be called boss and sir. And if they call me boss, I call them back boss, because I think we're on, as human beings, we are on the same level. Even though I'm the manager, I'm still a human person, and you are allowed to talk to me. And you don't need to call me boss. You don't need to call me sir. Or if you're a woman, you don't need to call me madam. So I was there, and they kind of started to implement the same habits towards me. And I said, please, my name is Micael. I am your manager, yes. I am the one who is taking care of the business, yes. And you are the one who's reporting to me, yes. But I want you to call me Micael, and we work together. And they could see over the period of 6, 7, 10 months that everything became more, it became more fun to work. I changed the routine for the lunch. So it was not only the standard food here in Tanzania. I added fish and meat to get them to work because it was a heavy workload and they needed proteins, not only ugali, which is maize flour. They needed something to build them up. I gave them this freedom under responsibility. So I said, I don't really look for when you clock in, and I don't really see when you clock out. But as long as you do your work and you deliver what you are supposed to deliver, I'm happy. But just see that everything is delivered in due time. If it takes you 6 hours or 12 hours for a day, it's up to you. And they became more and more like, wow, ooh, this is kind of working. And I've been giving this freedom, but I'm responsible for it, because I also told them that if you will not be able to manage this, I will become the boss. So if you want me to become the boss, don't, do it, screw it up, more or less, and then I will come back to you.
They are going to have to face me.
Yeah. When I then left, they said this, and also, part of it also to give them a fair salary for what they are doing, and not just try to squeeze them down and to get the cheapest, try to get as a good as person as possible for the lowest salary, because in the end of the day, you get what you pay for. So if you were looking for a cheap worker, you will get cheap work. If you're paying a decent salary, you will get decent work done. But this is something also that I'm struggling with here.
From your experience, from the different company that you have worked with and coached and help and do your intervention in terms of leadership and management, do you see some company culture that encourage toxic environment that could be avoided? Because it doesn't just happen. It's sort of a build up until it becomes maybe problematic. So I'm trying to see now if there are some elements we need to look at for in the beginning that is encouraging toxicity in the workplace.
I think it starts with the management. It's so easy. It starts with the management. And I mean, there are so many surveys. If you Google management styles and you Google what is good management and leadership, you will find out that the autocratic and the authority-driven and the persuasive-driven management style is not a good one. It's out there. It can work in the short run, but in the long run, it will never work. You can manage by fear and get a great result, but in a short period of time. But if you want to have sustainability over a longer period of time, you have to implement a democratic, trustworthy coaching, mentoring, leadership style, management style. It's so simple. And that's why I become, management should have a little bit more of an academic background, at least hopefully. And in that, university studies for whatever, bachelor or master's or PhD, this subject should be addressed. And evidently, it is not addressed because they are not good leaders and managers. And that's a concern again. Why is that not taking up in the university studies, where you can get, it's about humanity. It's about building something together. Yeah, again, when we talk about this, I get so concerned. It touched my heart deeply, that it's actually, it starts from the beginning, it starts from the childhood. And I think for former podcast that we had, the first one, I think, where I said that everything starts from childhood, going into the school system, where authorities is the drive. You never question the teacher. Or first of all, you never question your father and mother, because then you get beaten. You never question the teacher in primary and secondary, because then you get beaten. You never question the teachers in university, because then you maybe get expelled or get a bad exam or something. I mean, it's common sense.
All right, it's common sense. Make me a fair comparison between what is happening in Tanzania and what is happening maybe in Western society, for example, in terms of leadership.
I mean, it's not only in Tanzania, but my experience is in Tanzania. But I can hear and I can see when I go to Kenya or hear from other countries. I think Africa at whole is much driven like this, and maybe even India or part of Asia. But you just have to see the success of the companies. I mean, look at everyone is quoting Elon Musk. Oh, about him. But they haven't seen what kind of leadership style he has. He has a why. He's not an X manager. He's a Y manager. You look at Alibaba, you look at Apple, you look at whatever, look at the leadership management style, and that's where the success come from. I mean, how hard can it be to duplicate that leadership skills, not only quoting them by what they are saying? I mean, take Virgin, for instance. Branson has created fantastic company by this Y factor. So if you want to become famous, or if you want to become, great,
successful,
first of all, you need to look at the one who succeeded and see what they did, but you also need to look at the one who failed and what they did, so you're not copying that one. So it's kind of a comparison, what works and what doesn't work, as I see it. Again, this is my personal opinion, and I might be...
Trust me, I love that when it is your personal opinion. That is what we are actually here for. Now, my curiosity is it possible that maybe the culture of the people, since you've been living in Tanzania for a number of years and you interact with other African countries, and you are originally coming from Europe, do you think that maybe the culture of the people might be having an influence in how their environment, where they work, turn out to be, in this case, toxic environments?
Yeah, I mean, again, it starts from childhood, from school. I mean, a toxic environment can be a toxic classroom where the management, in this case, the teacher, is a fear-driven teacher, manager, leader. So that creates also toxic. And no wonder people don't want to go to school, because it's not giving, it's not rewarding. It's just go there, do the exam, and then go home. And you follow what the teacher tells you to do. Don't question. So absolutely, it's all about this. And if you look at the countries who are developing most, they are, I'm not saying that everything here is bad. On the contrary, there are many good things when it comes to the culture and how to drive a company. Absolutely. I'm not saying that is completely wrong. But there are also many good factors from the Western world. And I'm not saying that the Western world companies are doing everything right. Absolutely not. But if you combine the best from African culture with the best from in this case, African culture and with the Western, let's say Tanzania versus Sweden, where I come from originally, or Denmark. If you combine those two, success.
All right. Micael,
Yeah.
in your case, your study, your understanding, which are the things that is encouraging companies in Scandinavia country, for example, to succeed in terms of leadership? Share with me some of the example of cultural behavior that they do there that is not done in some other places.
I can just take one thing, working hours. Some company might have a clock in time, at 7 sharp in the morning. 7 a.m. you need to be there. If you're there before that, perfect. If you work long hours, that doesn't count, as long as you clock in at 7 latest. If you have a flexible working hours, depending on what kind of work you're doing, I mean, there are some people who have to clock in at 7, but then there are also other departments and persons and employees that there is not a necessity to clock in at a specific time. Some work can actually be done remotely if you are a manager or a leader. So that flexibility of just the clock in time, check-in time, keeping that a little bit more open and not so strict and again, autocratic and in an authority way driven. If you're late with 5 minutes, 3 consecutive days, you will get a warning. And if you've done it for 7 consecutive days in a month, you will get a written warning. And if you've done it 14 days for a month, late, clock in, we have a strong verbal written warning, whatever, and we might even consider taking some other disciplinary actions. Doesn't make sense to me.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. All right. Now, management and leadership, all these skills that they're not really new. Okay, let's say that these days they have become more important now because they are part of the soft skills now, even communication, interactive with people, learning how to engage with people. Sometimes some of us might not be very good in this, I know, but if you are in a position of leadership, you cannot give any excuse why you should not be good in it because there are skills that you can learn. Where I actually am going from here is there are these courses available, for example, like the one that you offer. You train people on how to execute well so that they can get better results. Do you see many of these managers taking advantage of that? Or it's just because they don't want to? Because I want to believe that as a manager, you must have an objective for why you are there. That objective, you must at least from time to time evaluate to see, are you getting there? Because if you are not getting there, you must ask the question. So why are they not taking advantage of courses of upgrades about leadership, for example?
Very good question. I've often asked myself that also. But and for me, it's like it's 3 factors that makes this. I mean, either you have the knowledge or you don't have the knowledge, but you can always get the knowledge. Either you have the skill or you don't have the skill, but you can train the skill from that knowledge. But if you don't have the right attitude towards training and knowledge, you will never have it. And for me, one of my great, one of the people out there who is inspiring me for currently the most is Professor Jordan Peterson. And I think what he has,
Guy.
very great. I mean, he's fantastic. And one of the things is about knowing yourself, making a self-assessment. And he has them for cheap money, just so you can understand yourself. Because if you start to understand yourself, you will start to understand others. And that's the core. So please, in order to you to understand others, you need to understand yourself first. And if you make that self-assessment, and if you are not empathic, and if you are an autocratic, you will have low scores. I can believe. I believe me on that. I've seen that as well. So if you don't have that good self-assessment, you are way off. The more you live in life and the more you experience and the more humanitarian you are and the more empathic you are and more democratic in coaching, the higher score on self-assessment you get. And that comes a little bit through experience. Yes, life, what you have experienced, what you have gone through, hardships, failures, successes, results, winnings, losings. So coming back to that, I ask myself over and over again, why do not leaders do things in order to make them better managers? I don't have the answer, and it concerns me again. There are so many things that concerns me.
What do you think we should do or companies should do to prevent it? Because if you can prevent it, then the problem will not be there. So there will not be need to cleaning it up. What do you think companies should do to prevent toxicity in the workplaces?
They should do first of all, I think they need to do, it's a must, that they do a deep self-assessment. And then that they also prove that it's okay to question and that they make a survey in the company, kind of where you don't reveal your names, from the employees, asking them how about what they see in the company and what can be improved and what is good and what is not good. I mean, there are many polls you can put into that. You can make online surveys or polls or tests, and no one knows it's you. Because I think that if you want to start to change, you need to gain the trust that your staff and your employees are free to speak without any repercussions. There are no consequences if you say the wrong thing. But at the end, it starts with the leaders. And if you're going to go back again, it starts with the universities that should have had this. And then if you go a step back, it's secondary, and then it's primary, and then it's back to the family. So I think it's a long curve. But if you are today already an established company, and you can see that the turnover of people or the sick days are increasing, the performance is low, the man hours are increasing, then I think you need to look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, what have I done wrong? It might be me, and make a huge self-assessment, include companies or people who have experience on how to turn things around, and to be open and flexible to make a change. Because then we come back to one of my core words, is that if you want to grow and if you want to develop, you need to make changes. So development requires changes, period. And if you want to change the company if you want to develop and grow the company, you have to change yourself. It starts with you as a company owner or a company CEO or a COO or whatever. Or if you run a department where you see you have the responsibility for operational logistics or sales or finance.
How can people connect with you? Say maybe, for example, they want to take advantage of what you do because you have training program or you have offer out there. Use this few seconds to promote yourself. Please go.
Okay, I will do my best to promote myself. I have a LinkedIn profile. I have a YouTube channel, and I have written 2 training books, one for management, middle management, and also one for sales. If you want to come in touch with me, go through my LinkedIn page, look for my YouTube channel, and drop me a mail or a message. You might be the one who take the first step.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for inviting me, Obehi.
If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewanfo. Thank you so much for listening, and talk to you in the next episode.